My name is Amelia. I didn't come from wealth or privilege. My upbringing was simple, but I managed to land a steady job and eventually married Edward, who worked at a high-end hotel. At first, I imagined our life unfolding like a fairy tale, but reality had a very different script in store for me. Though my childhood lacked luxury, I never felt deprived. My parents gave up their own comforts to expose me to the world, often taking me to places where I could learn about other cultures. Sometimes, I thought they loved geography more than they cared about day-to-day necessities. As a child, it felt like they were pouring their hearts into giving me the best life they could. I didn't want to add to their financial strain, so I made the decision to start working after middle school, even though my mother urged me to finish high school first, but I was determined. My dad stood by me, saying they had enough saved to support my education if I changed my mind. Their support was touching, but more than anything, I wanted to ease their burden. "I'll start earning as soon as I graduate," I promised them. "The earlier I start, the faster I'll be able to grow." Job prospects were uncertain, but I was hopeful. My closest childhood friend, Jessica, was also from an immigrant family and faced similar struggles. Our friendship deepened through shared hardships, and chatting with her helped me pick up Spanish. By ninth grade, I was fluent enough to have full conversations. That language skill opened a door for me when a travel agency offered me a job. Jessica and I eventually went separate ways after school, but I stayed laser-focused on my career. Years passed. By the time I turned 26, I was working frequently in the lounge of a hotel, a familiar place thanks to client meetings. The hotel had an upscale but relaxed vibe, and the reasonably priced food made it a favorite spot for business catch-ups. Edward, who worked there as a server, would often speak in Spanish with guests, likely because of the diverse clientele. We bumped into each other several times, and something just clicked. Our connection grew quickly, and before long, we were married. For someone with my background, it felt like a dream, but the bliss of newlywed life didn't last long. Just before the wedding, Edward had a heartfelt request. He wanted us to live in his childhood home. His mother had been widowed and was now living alone, and he thought my remote job would make it easy to keep her company and help out around the house. Though the idea seemed practical on the surface, I hesitated. On my first visit to the house, his mother's reaction unsettled me. When she asked where I'd gone to college, I explained that I'd only finished middle school. Her silence spoke volumes. I could tell she didn't approve. I brought it up casually with Edward. "Do you think your mom doesn't like me?" I asked. He laughed it off, reassuring me that his mother trusted his decisions and didn't have anything against me. Trusting his words, and his promise to step in if issues ever came up, I agreed to move in. But once I started living there, the truth became painfully obvious. While Edward and his mom exchanged warm, cheerful words in front of me, her attitude toward me was cold and standoffish. "Just make sure you don't drag Edward down," she'd say with a flat tone, more like giving orders than offering advice. Her eyes always carried a hint of contempt, and I could feel the judgment radiating off her. Still, Edward stood up for me once. "Don't worry, Amelia's doing great at work too," he told her, but the look she gave him, a stern, disapproving glare, was hard to ignore. I told myself I could handle it. I believed that if I communicated openly with Edward and remained patient, things would get better. We started our life together in that house with optimism, convinced that we could make it work as a family. But reality had other plans. One morning, while I was deep into my work on the computer, she barged into my room without warning. "Amelia, when are you cleaning my room? It has to be done by 10 a.m. every day," she barked. I was shocked. No one had ever told me there was a fixed cleaning schedule. I had agreed to help around the house, but we never defined specific chores or routines. Still, I wrapped up my work quickly, apologized, and got to cleaning. Meanwhile, she lounged on the couch, watching TV and snacking as if she didn't have a care in the world. It became clear our expectations didn't align. Edward had mentioned before that his mother had some health issues, so I assumed she might need help physically, but from what I could see, she was plenty energetic, just selective about when and where she showed it. After I finished cleaning, she asked me to start dinner and insisted it be cooked in a specific, bland way. Then she sent me out to buy groceries, even though it felt early to start cooking. Still, I complied. When I returned, she was right where I left her, relaxed and watching TV. I swallowed my frustration, telling myself she just needed time to warm up to me. I believed that my efforts would eventually speak for themselves. But weeks passed, then months, and things only got worse. She began nitpicking everything. If I was 5 minutes late with the laundry, she'd complain. If the bathtub wasn't spotless, she'd find fault. Her standards became impossible. Before I knew it, I was doing all the housework while she sat around like a queen. It began affecting my job, and that was my breaking point. One night, once she'd gone to bed, I decided to talk to Edward. I told him how I felt, tired, unappreciated, and constantly criticized. To my disbelief, he just laughed. "That can't be right," he said. "Mom's a sweet lady, just try not to do anything weird, and everything will be fine." He refused to take me seriously. Maybe it was because she always acted differently around him, sweet, doting, and never critical. Sometimes, she'd even suggest I take a break and join her for tea when he was around. But I knew better. Her kindness was a mask, and underneath it, my patience was wearing dangerously thin. I found myself overwhelmed by household duties each day, often working late into the night to keep up with my job. To be honest, my trust in Edward was fading, and without a change, the mounting pressure was starting to feel like too much. In the middle of this chaos, my mother-in-law dropped a bombshell. "Amelia, I'll be gone for about a week in 3 months. Make sure everything's in order while I'm away." This took me completely by surprise. When I asked why she was leaving, she casually mentioned that Edward had suggested the trip abroad. Oddly, Edward hadn't said anything to me about it, which made me feel excluded and burdened with the responsibility of maintaining the house while they were gone. I knew I had to address the situation with Edward, so that night, I confronted him. His response was dismissive. "Oh, Mom already told you? But you're coming with us, right?" It turned out there had been a misunderstanding. My mother-in-law had misled me. Despite Edward's intention for me to join the trip, the idea of spending extended time with his mother was unappealing. I expressed my reluctance to go, explaining that it wouldn't be enjoyable with her around. Edward was shocked and angry. His response escalated quickly, creating a tense atmosphere that only made our already difficult living situation worse. "Amelia, what on earth are you talking about? How long are you going to keep acting like this? I won't let you talk about my mom that way. You better think this over. It's an overseas vacation, for crying out loud, and I want to enjoy it too," he snapped. His lack of trust in me stung deeply, and the thought of staying in that house was becoming unbearable. Determined to get to the bottom of things, I took action. The next morning, when Edward was off to work, I sat down with my mother-in-law at breakfast and confronted her. "You're trying to exclude me from the trip, aren't you?" I asked. She responded defiantly, saying if I wanted to join, I could. Edward then intervened, urging me to apologize to his mother and accusing me of being defiant and childish. Refusing to back down, I insisted that I had a right to know the truth. That's when my mother-in-law delivered the harshest blow, suggesting that maybe I should stay behind because someone like me wasn't ready for an overseas trip. She questioned my ability to appreciate the experience due to my lack of education and implied I didn't deserve to go because I was unemployed. I was stunned. I had explained my job multiple times, specifically, my remote work, but she dismissed it as nothing more than playing on the computer. Her insults continued as she accused me of living off Edward's earnings, calling me uneducated and worthless. The final insult came when she suggested that Edward, with his skills and high-status job, shouldn't be wasting money on someone like me, a bottom feeder who should leave immediately. Edward, to my surprise, sided with his mother, suggesting I cool off and let things go. His indifference made it clear that he was fed up with me. At that moment, I reached my breaking point. I couldn't stay in this toxic environment any longer. When my mother-in-law told me to leave, I didn't hesitate. I nodded quietly and walked out of the house, hearing her call after me with a sneer, mocking my supposed poor life as if it were something beneath her. They didn't realize, though, that consequences were coming their way. 3 months later, just as they were planning to leave for their trip, I received an unexpected call from my mother-in-law. She sounded frantic. "We need your help, Amelia. We're getting collection letters, and we don't know what to do," she admitted. I asked why they were in this predicament, and she confessed she didn't know anything about it. I calmly revealed that I hadn't been paying the utilities. When she asked why I hadn't told her, I simply explained that I had assumed it was expected. It seemed Edward had finally come clean about their financial situation. By then, I had already started my own business, using the skills I'd gained from my time at the travel agency. My business was thriving, and I had moved back to California. I'd also made sure to have the divorce papers ready and filed. The divorce was processed smoothly, and Edward looked gaunt when I left him, apparently realizing he had been relying on me financially, even for the overseas trip. This revelation didn't shock me, though. It turned out that both Edward and his mother had been living off my late father-in-law's wealth, spending recklessly until it was all gone. My mother-in-law, caught up in a brief period of financial abundance, had spent it all without thinking about the future. Edward, aware of his low income, had turned to me for financial support, which only worsened their financial irresponsibility. As I listened to my mother-in-law, more disturbing truths came to light. She hadn't insisted I live with them to keep an eye on her, as I had thought, but because she had been living off my father-in-law's wealth. Their debts, now exceeding $440,000, were the result of their extravagant spending. The level of dependency from these grown adults was maddening. When my mother-in-law audaciously asked for my help, I refused. Edward, feeling entitled, begged me to assist them, claiming it was my responsibility. I suggested that they start living more frugally and focus on managing their debts. I made it clear I had no intention of covering their financial mistakes. Frustrated by the situation, Edward suggested we divorce, believing it might offer some financial relief. Unmoved, I agreed, and the divorce papers were swiftly processed. When I returned to California, I ensured that their debts remained their responsibility, delivering the divorce papers and ending the call without further discussion. A week later, Edward reached out to me again, revealing that he had been counting on my money for their overseas trip. This came as no surprise. I stayed firm in my decision to not bail them out and advised them to work on managing their debts. Meanwhile, Jessica had become a successful business owner, building a house in Hawaii and serving as the company president. She had her parents living with her, and they were all enjoying their time together. Inspired by Jessica's success, I reached out to my parents, and we made the decision to live together in Hawaii. I visited Jessica occasionally, sharing our blessings and motivating each other in our work. The experience taught both Jessica and me an invaluable lesson: the importance of hard work and taking responsibility for our finances. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video. Stay amazed.